This is Andy Baker, and you're listening to the Creative AI Podcast. In this conversation, I talk with Justin Marshall, founder of The Department, about the evolving role of AI in marketing, communication, and human connection. Justin is a sharp thinker with a deep understanding of how agentic AI is reshaping workflows, freeing up time, and personalizing outreach at scale. We talk about where inspiration comes from, how to keep the last mile human, and the moral complexity of building trust with tools that may eventually seek to persuade. This one goes deep, and I think you're going to find Justin's perspective as compelling as I did. All right, so I am on here with Justin Marshall. He is the founder of The Department, and I've had the pleasure of having some conversations with him already. He is fascinating. He is brilliant. He is using AI in very practical and pragmatic ways, and many of you have reached out to me to say that finding out how people are actively using AI tools in all the different facets of what we do as creatives, you found it helpful. And so he is a natural to be on with us tonight. And I would love, Justin, if you would introduce yourself to the listeners, tell us a little bit about what you and the department do, and then we'll start digging into your journey with AI.
Andy, thank you so much for the time. My name's Justin Marshall. Started out as a designer by trade. And actually, that's still how I consider myself. I design systems, I design models, I design, how to help companies reach customers in new and unique ways. I did that at a large creative agency for 15 years within WPP. Left this large holding company to, go to a smaller startup, if you will, and built that company for 4 years, and then ended up creating my own company where I wanted to build and design customer experiences for B2B brands. I've been doing that for the last 6 months, and it's still so incredibly fulfilling in such a incredibly chaotic industry right now. But I see so much opportunity to leverage AI and automation to execute humanity and thoughtfulness and lead generation at scale that, to be honest, I just don't see in the market today.
So you have to be somebody who has over time, I imagine, you saw the potential of these tools, saw as AI became something that, so you've been a strategist, you've been somebody who has sort of embraced new ways to help companies build, and you're specifically seeing AI when you first encounter it, when you first start seeing the potential of it. When did you realize it was something that, okay, this isn't novelty, this isn't something to just tinker with, this is something I need to learn more about and integrate?
I was talking with an old boss of mine who was a GM at a large tech enterprise company, and she had a team who built bots for her. Last year, she was like, my team of 35 marketers in the US and probably 150 marketers across the globe spend 4 to 8 hours every single week building reports for executives around campaigns we want to build, landing pages, you name it. And she's like, so I created a team that just builds, agentic operations that helps my team not do that anymore. And it gets built for them.
Well, that's
and so
fascinating.
literally 20 hours a week at the end of the day, she's like, 20 hours a week for every single person on my team has been freed up because this team. And I was like, okay, hold on a minute. So first of all, it goes to show how much bloat and incredibly, wasteful executives can be in large enterprise companies, but also the amount of efficiency that could be made. And the fact that she built a team around that to support her global operation was enough for me to go, okay, it's not about content creation or sending emails or creating LinkedIn posts. This is something that is incredibly powerful for us.
It's interesting. I think you're the first person I've had on to talk specifically about the use of agentic AI because, there's been different phases, different, I hesitate to say buzzwords because these are very real things where, obviously you have large language models and, you have your chat GPTs and then you have your video and image generating, but agentic, like that's what is moving to the forefront now because that's what's got the utility. And so I'm very curious. So when you talk about agentic operations, not everyone who's listening to this may have their heads fully around what that means about sort of creating agents. I think we can all grok the idea, but the idea that there's this productivity, these reports are being generated. But speak to that a little bit more about how that works and how you develop and use these tools to free up these 20 hours. Because everyone listening, it's like, wait a minute, I can free up 20 hours or I can do this stuff and then do 20 more hours of other really productive, interesting, high level thinking. How do I do that?
Yeah, so I can't divulge what company she works for,
Of
but
course.
what I can tell you is if you've been in a conference room at a tech enterprise company and you've looked at their PowerPoint presentation or Google slide, whatever it may be, information overload is putting it mildly. So every single slide has probably 5 things it wants to tell you at once. And their job as a marketer within a tech enterprise company is to build these multi-dimensional PowerPoint decks. And it's incredibly time consuming. It's, cognitive intensive and it's a requirement. It's not about like full bleed. Can I do like a full bleed slide with like 2 words on it? That's not going to work, right? They really want very in-depth information, data forward presentations. And so it takes a lot of time and effort to pull that together. If you think about, I mean, the antithesis to that is Amazon's 6-pager. I don't know if you've heard of that, right? Where like Amazon's like, we're not going to do PowerPoint presentations. We will do it at Amazon FAQ. And everything is like to the word, detailed, built in, objective, data forward. So it's all of, that is the frame by which all of these marketing executives prove their value every single week in what they do, whether it's building a landing page, whether it's creating a campaign, you name it. And so she built this team who created an agent that would ingest all of their data. So whether it's like, the website, whatever it may be, outbound campaigns, partner ecosystem campaigns, you name it, all of the comms, the every single aspect of the brand voice, you name it. And she would kind of put that into a system that would then build a PowerPoint deck every single week that her team wouldn't have to build. And it would be based on specific KPIs, specific business metrics that they would have to obviously report against. And it would take that time away, right? Like,
And not to get too far down the road here, but it just, what you said just brought it up that, so I've been doing a lot lately with ChatGPT and Gemini with their playing around with deep research, creating these detailed reports, and they are improving rapidly. And the ability to give you those visualizations, to be able to pull in lots of sources that can be cited so that you can, you'll end up having to double check because, hallucinations are still a thing. It is a tool. You can't hand over all of the agency. But again, when we talk about agentic AI, that word is in there, agency, right? And so I'm feeling like, and I've seen some of these tools being able to link more now with like, would you like us to generate that as a spreadsheet, as a Google Doc, and like being able to create slides, being able to present information in an interesting way. And it's a very long-winded preamble to say to you, who is at the forefront of this, how good is it? How capable? Where is it going from where you saw it? Like, this is a part of your professional life. One does not welcome that into your professional life if it's not something to be used that that you trust the results you can get out of it. So I'm just curious, again, just sort of tapping into that journey of yours in incorporating this stuff and understanding it and using it. And obviously, this woman that you're speaking of, she's using it in a way. How is that being integrated? And what was that journey like to get to that point where you're like, okay, these are the tools that I use, and here's why?
Andy, garbage in, garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
Always, right? Like even with, whether you have an intern or a young student or an executive, if you're not giving the right data in, you're not going to get the right data out. And so I find, let me speak about me, not about my friend who built her kind of agent. I am meticulous about what I put in as a prompt.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it over and over and over and over again because I'm trying to create prompts that can reach thousands of people every single day. And I use platforms like Clay, Autobound, Apollo, and they use Anthropic, ChatGPT 4.0, 4.1, you name it. If I don't put the right prompt in, and if I don't guide that person, I think of ChatGPT or any AI as a person.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Yeah.
If I don't guide that person to create the right output, then you're not going to get the right output. You won't. It'll be garbage out. And so everything that I do is in service of making sure that I can put the right guardrails around what the outcome is. And let me be specific, Andy, like it's not just, hey, can you, create this email or create this blog post for blah blah blah. It's creating the context, setting
Mm-hmm.
the context, setting who that agent is, and then actually giving examples. I write and I love to write, and I love my own voice, but I want it to write in my voice to where it's creating a shitty first draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that to be done not 10 times, but 1,000 times. So what I do is I work to create a prompt that can be scaled at 1,000 times in a day. If I can do that in my voice and in a way where I'm not talking to Andy Baker, but I'm talking about Andy Baker who lives here, does this, cares about X, Y, and Z, and just recently posted about, LGBTQ plus. I get I believe that context matters. And if the agent can help me do that and kind of help me move forward in being contextual for 1,000 people in one single day, that is incredible. That is incredibly powerful. And I want it's not just me, but I have a team of people who we work together to build these prompts and we refine the prompts and we do it over and over and over again. And we do it for companies, we do it for nonprofits. We're trying to really reach buyers, humans on the other side that are stressed about their job, trying to look good for their boss, make the right decisions or not the right decision. Like they're trying to, like, especially in this volatile world, can we help them by offering some type of message or response that is not only compelling but value driven? I want that. So if I can use ChatGPT or any agent at scale and again, like I make the mark of 1,000 per day. If I can make 1,000 responses or moments a day that are value driven and focused on what Andy cares about, what you want to do next, and why you would want to either interact with me or my company or someone else, that's what I want.
You touched on so many fascinating things that I want to talk about now. I'll start though with the individualization piece of this. Like you combine that sort of prompt engineering, like you said, to be able to do it at scale, to do it quickly, you pair that with an individual's data so that you already have a sense of, like you said, context around who this person is, what their preferences might be, what they, like Google with all the data it has about, where you shop and, sites you visit and just data, right? That ability to have an individualized appeal, connection, understanding, is that the world we're heading heading into, where it is like individualized experience, not only in like entertainment that we get, interactions we might have, but also in like you're saying, like nonprofits, you're raising money for a cause that the appeal would be very personal to us, and it would know us and know how to speak to us and to make the right appeal at the right time with the right person. Is that the world we're heading into?
I hope so. And I hope so, if by permission,
Yes.
because I do think that there is a world where I don't want my kids to be bombarded by every single data point that little kind of data pollen that they leave
That's a good phrase.
in the market. I don't want that. But what I do want is, let me just talk about me. I don't want another email that says, "Hi, Justin. I see that you work at blah 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 blah, not the right company, wrong company. You do X, Y, and Z. We can offer A, B, and C." And I was like, that's just bullshit. Like, like, that's just spam. Does anyone ever want to be emailed time and time again that with content that is irrelevant, uninteresting, impersonal, disconnected? No, none of us want that. None of us do. Period. And so I wonder if we can use this technology to be more thoughtful, to be more human, to be more direct. And actually, I mean, one of the things that I have another platform that I use that creates strength of connection. So it's not just what we say, what we send to people, but are we connected? Whether it's first party connection, second connection via LinkedIn or email or you name it, to where we're talking to friends and someone can recommend us. Feel like there is an injection of humanity that we can bring to this technology if done right. If done right, like, we can do it terribly. And you've seen, I know you've seen terrible executions of whether it's outbound email, whether it's LinkedIn posts, whether it's like, we all know we can squint test and go, yep, that was ChatGPT written. Nope, literally zero people do bullets with 3 green check marks. Never, never.
In
In
recorded history of man, we've never done that, and suddenly it's all over LinkedIn.
Really, oh, here's the other thing, dude. I love M dashes. I write with M dashes, and now all of a sudden everyone has M dashes, and I'm like, oh, did ChatGPT could have create that for me, or
There is somewhere out there a support group for M-dash lovers before AI who now feel like they can't use them because you're going to get judged for using them. Because it was a joke with some of my colleagues in the past that I use them too much. And it's like, and now it's like, I mean, I was AI before there was AI. Like, so what? I like M-dashes, but I can't use them now because they're everywhere.
kills me, kills me.
And yeah, and we've, like you said, like we've all seen those LinkedIn where it's like, okay, there's, emoticons everywhere and the bulleted lists and it's just like, now you don't even bother to engage and read that. As soon as you start seeing that, some of that stuff, it's like, okay, this isn't genuine. This isn't human enough. And yet it is using tools to grab the human eye because we figured out what can grab
Yeah.
the human eye. But then it just makes us angry, and we don't want to have that, negative reaction informing our interaction with a company or a product or whatever it is. So I'll be curious how things evolve. But one of the things that you had mentioned to me, the possibility of crescendo towards an idea, whether it's a marketing campaign, can you get people, like when you have that level of, if you insert that humanity into this process of connecting and conveying a message, again, whether it's, email or other, LinkedIn, other sources. And just this past week, I thought of you because there was a story that came out. Researchers for the University of Zurich, I don't know if you saw this, they were using AI bots to pose as people on Reddit in the forum Change My View. And they were having these bots engage along the lines of morality. What's the morality and ethics around engaging people on their political and personal views? Because what they analyzed it, and the bots were 3 to 6 times more persuasive in getting people to change their opinions than humans were. But then the morality and ethics, they didn't tell anybody that they were basically the subjects of an experiment. People got to see the draft of the research study. It's now not going to get published because they were under the heavy scrutiny of, well, you didn't conduct this in a moral and ethical way, which I understand and completely agree with. At the same time, the results were what they were, which is that we can split hairs about exactly how persuasive they were, but they were persuasive. That level of feeling like it is human and being able to change our minds. And this is about things that we're entrenched on, right? Political, personal beliefs versus choosing this product over that product versus, the heart of marketing and advertising, how persuasive these tools can possibly be. It's a long preamble to, what is something like that? What do you think and feel when you hear something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Amazon's probably testing this more than others.
Yes.
Probably Google Gemini, but Amazon Rufus, I mean, you think about like the dramatic change that Amazon marketplace will have when Rufus overtakes Amazon search. I mean, think about it. Like Amazon PPC, Amazon advertising as a whole is an incredible business, brings in billions of dollars, and Rufus will change that overnight. Gemini will do the same, right? So all of a sudden you're going to see persuasion happen, not just searching, but persuasion. Want find me the best foot massager for no, okay, for what? For who? Like, oh, how much do you weigh? Like, how big is your foot? Like, what's your price point? Like, all of a sudden everything changes. So the economics of advertising and being the manufacturer that wants to actually be top of the quote unquote search page
Hmm.
everything changes, right? So that's number one. Number two, how terrifying is it that I mean, it's frictionless, absolutely, but terrifying in the sense that a an agent can define the path by which you spend money, or likely persuade you to spend money in a way that you wouldn't otherwise. And I find concern in that as a consumer. I also, as a marketer, am worried that yes, it's great because it's quote unquote customer centric, should be, but can those companies adapt their algorithm or their agent to lean toward one product versus the other? That's where I get.
Yeah, you used a key word there, frictionless. You feel the invisible hand. Like we all know or quickly pick up on when changes are made. And it's like, okay, now, in the early days when they started doing sponsored ads at the top of a Google search years ago now, at first we didn't realize, maybe we didn't pay attention to that word sponsored being there. And then we quickly cottoned on to the fact, okay, I need to scroll down a bit to get to some more genuine search results. Or you're on Amazon and you have sponsored products come up, and then you have the Amazon's choice, and then you have their own internal brands. And you realize you're being fed these. And so you kind of have to dig around to find some authentic results. What happens when it's invisible, when it is just built in? I know that this is part of the debate with ChatGPT, that they are now going to allow, they're starting to do, I hesitate to call it sponsorships, but with sales through it. And that's when you open up the door to whose deals are you taking? You're starting to take money for this,
That's right.
and we're
Commercialization.
all going to feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, so this morning, so I have this Martin guitar that I've had for 25 years. It is one of the best things I own. Absolutely love it. And 2 years ago, I bought a Taylor Mini. And so this morning, actually got in a conversation with Perplexity Pro. And I said, hey, why do people like Taylor versus Martin? What is it? What makes someone love a Taylor guitar over a Martin or vice versa? And it went to like, well, Martins are deeper, deeper bass, more richer sound. Taylor's brighter. It's really just based on your preference. Because my preference is Martins. I love Martin guitars, and I will take a Martin guitar over a Taylor guitar any day of the week. But there are others, even like Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran, who love Taylor guitars. They love the bright sound. What happens when someone else asks that question and it gets no pun intended, tailored toward a specific brand. And I think that that will be the end of the game. All of a sudden, now we've been a part of this kind of, internet craze for 25 years, and we know that like Google ended up, was essentially that, right? Like if you search for it, it ended up being this. Same argument could be made in that, oh yeah, well, just like Google in 2008 or 2013 would tailor the search results to this, so could, ChatGPT or Perplexity or Anthropic. But the pervasiveness of like being able to, I literally did that when I was driving home from dropping off my daughter at school. I literally talked to Perplexity and I was like, hey, listen, I loved Martin guitars. Why do people like Taylors? And it ended up being this conversation that was pretty objective. It was like, hey, this is why people like this. But what if it's not objective? What if it ends up being subjective to where the inspiration by which that conversation kind of lends itself ends up being very commercial. And I as a marketer, I could be sadly interested in it, but I'm also terrified of it.
And you touched on something, and it takes us back to one of the other points you made earlier that I wanted to hit on. You are understandably, you personify the AI in that you're having a conversation. You're
Yes.
building a relationship. You are building a connection. It's personal. It's like, like all the things that we've talked about before. And so you begin to build trust. I mean, that's part of marketing, right? Is to connect that, people to a company, people to people. You build trust by, living up to your promises of whatever product you're selling or whatever. Like, but this is an ongoing conversation where it's like, okay, now I like that kind of guitar. And so you might bring that up in a future conversation, or like maybe you're going to suggest some music because they use these kinds of instruments that I know you like. And suddenly, again, that trust gets built. But when there is trust can get abused in the sense that, okay, you're going to trust everything I say. We've built this connection over a period of time. Now you trust me, right? Why don't you buy this? Or why don't you do this? And it's like, well, you've never steered me wrong before, so maybe I will. It's such an interesting power, right? That this just struck me that in the agentic age of AI, we think of these things as agents, but what we are doing is handing over our agency,
That's
right?
right.
And so we hand that agency, it's like, okay, you're helping me make a decision that I don't know if you have some purpose, programming, motive behind having suggested it.
Yeah, let me go back to our conversation about my friend who built a team that created bots, created agents for her organization. Think about the trust required for executives at a CVP or a C level for a multi-billion-dollar company to believe what is presented to them from agents and then set budgetary, staffing, 36-month, 60-month plans based on what they're seeing from an AI. Like that right there is incredibly both powerful and terrifying at the same time.
Well, especially, I've had some experiences just recently, and touching on a couple of the other things you brought up earlier that I wanted to turn back to. You talked about prompting and about garbage in, garbage out, user error or user incompleteness. In that, I have found in setting up my own LLMs and then working on prompts, that when I get bad output, it's because I haven't put in the layers of prompting that I need. And yet, you sort of build it out to a certain point that you trust the output. And then it's kind of this weird violation when you double check it. Like I did this recently with an article. I was processing some interviews that I had done with people. And then I looked at sort of like, okay, what are the key themes that were coming up? Let me extract some quotes that built on that. It's the ChatGPT's desire to please. I looked at the quotes and I'm like, I don't remember that Okay, so go back and look at the raw source material and find that quote for me. It's not there. Wow, you're great at pointing that out to me. And I'm like, okay, now if I had trusted you with something bigger, and part of that was what it was trying to do, but part of that is also prompting, right? In that, like, if you can have it check, double check, triple check, but you have to be so very careful because, like you said, it's really powerful, but at the same time, it's only going to give you what you have ultimately outlined, at least at this phase of its existence. Because I've gotten to the point now, and I'm sure you have examples of creative prompting where I was telling in the prompt, it's like, okay, you are a world class reporter who prides yourself on accuracy and you are looking to summarize this piece. You cannot make up any quotes or any information. You want to highlight the key bits of information, visualize it if you can. Okay, now you're the editor in chief looking over the work done by the world class reporter and double checking everything to make sure it's so giving it roles to play. And the end result, once you go through prompt after prompt after prompt, you can get to a place. But it's like, what happens if you stop too early? And what comes out the other side that you then share out into the world, representing as your own? What does that look like? And is there an erosion of trust at that?
Andy, do you ever like insert into your prompt in the style of? Do you ever do that?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So who's your in the style of?
Well, we at the magazine that I'm working on, that there are times when and I'm mildly ashamed to admit it, not ashamed, like it's like Ezra Klein. How would he handle this sort
Right.
of thoughtful analysis where, sort of questioning and doubting, but really intellectual, thoughtful analysis? And so, yeah, do it like, and it can do a good job, right?
Yeah. Malcolm Gladwell is my like Malcolm Gladwell or Scott Galloway or like give me Kara Swisher. Like just give me a right. Write this in the style of
Yeah.
just so I have something. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. It's compelling. It's not how I would write it, but I like that. Okay, let me take this sentence or let me rewrite this.
Yeah, Scott Galloway.
Very data driven. Malcolm Gladwell is very story driven. You know what I mean? It's just like there's just something. So what happens when we lose when that gets old? So if everyone is asking the agent to write in the style of authors in the past, where does inspiration come?
That is, you're heading into a realm of where I'm very happy to go because I am endlessly fascinated with this question. And I've asked it of many people or talked about it with many people on this podcast about now we have the benefit of having done a whole lot of work in the absence of AI. We have developed the skills to be able to use AI as a partner that we can assess what it's giving us. We can check it. We can understand like that output's not good, but I asked you to give me 100 things and there's like three that work. And that's interesting. But there are people now who are coming up who haven't done the reps yet, who haven't necessarily developed those skills and, younger and younger. Heck, my daughter goes to ChatGPT. She looks in the fridge and finds ingredients as a 10-year-old and she's like, okay, ChatGPT, what can I make out of this? And she has cooked for us lately, thanks to ChatGPT. But like she's 10. Who is she by the time she's 22? When you only know a world where these tools are getting stronger and stronger, have you developed the underlying skills? Like, or writers, musicians, anybody who like they are learning side by side with these tools as opposed in the absence of them and then they introduce them. So again, it's timing, right? Like in my youth, I got to read a whole lot of books and do a whole lot of work before there were personal computers sitting on every desk. And then suddenly things are being done on the computer. Things change, we adapt, we evolve. Internet comes along, but I had had a lot of life before the internet is pervasive. Now it's AI. It's like, okay, if I use AI as a sounding board, as I've talked about on this podcast a lot, building out a Bible for an old show idea that I had just to test the waters to see what these tools are capable of. and how quickly I was putting material together. But I can look at it and say, well, that's garbage, because I've written a lot of garbage in my life. I know what garbage is. I have been in writers' rooms and realized that no garbage is ever garbage, because it gets you to another place and it can become something. It can get you somewhere. And I just wonder about a world where it's being shaped by these tools. Like you said, and it's profoundly stated, and I think we have our title for the episode, where does inspiration come from? And I know for me, it's from the long walks in the woods with my dogs, when I don't have anything in my ear, and my phone might be in my pocket, but that's where it stays. But it's like you have to detox for a while, and it's like the second hour of the hike where that's where the ideas start come tumbling out. And it's like, oh, there I am. And I don't know that, you hear about teachers talking about the lack of comfort with boredom. I was bored a lot as a child, and it turned me into a writer. But where does it come from? Where do you think it comes from?
Andy, I'm in my mid 40s right now, and I'm just now learning that, yeah, it comes from lack of instant gratification. It comes from, yeah, on those runs, or in the shower, or just random moments of boredom. And yeah, I'm right there with you. Called my son, who is a freshman at Oregon State University. He is in the engineering program, and he had a 3-hour assignment this morning, and I couldn't even describe the math to you. Like, if you were to say, like, listen, what math is your son doing? I'm like, I can't even like articulate what that is. That's how fucking smart he is. But he was like,
There isn't a word for that in the English language. You can only describe it with numbers.
he said that he had no, sorry, not 90 minutes, 110 minutes to finish this problem. And he decided to go to ChatGPT, and he was like, I'm just going to see if ChatGPT could do it. Did it in seconds, perfectly. And he was like, why am I even learning this? And this is my 19-year-old son, who is incredibly smart and, in school, spending hours a day doing this work. And it's like, where does inspiration come from? Doesn't come from fucking ChatGPT, tell you that much. It's doing the work. And what happens when we don't do the work? And that, I guess, and that also gets me back to use in the company that I've built, is focused on leveraging AI and automation to get us to, I would say, the shitty first draft. You have to do that, especially if you want to do it at scale. If you want to reach thousands of people every single day, and you want to do it in a way that is personal, thoughtful, articulate, I can't spend enough time on LinkedIn and reaching out to understanding who Andy is and where you went to school and what matters to you. I can't do all of that. But what I can do is I could use these tools and to get close, I guess. And that's actually where my inspiration comes from. So if I can, and if the team that I work with can leverage these platforms to use it to create inspiration, then I think there's greatness out of this. If not, like there's no redemption there. There's no redemption in, and that's where I think you and I and all of us, when we look at LinkedIn articles that clearly were written by ChatGPT, we're just like, barf, dude, go away. Like, no one, literally zero people care. But if I can use it to be really interesting and distinct and thoughtful and valuable, Andy, to you and the people that you want to reach, what you care about, and maybe what you're going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. If we can actually make your Friday better by offering you something, awesome. So if ChatGPT or any Anthropic, Perplexity, if these tools can create some type of inspiration to make your day better tomorrow, I'm good. Great. That's what I want. If it ends up being the end game, garbage. Absolute garbage.
It sounds like you are in the camp of the last mile being human. That it's when you talk about logistics, where that it can get you to a place, but that last mile has to be. That's always the hardest for logistics. It's like, how do I finally deliver it home? It has to be a person. It's not going to be a robot. It's not going to be, it's like, you got to get it there. You're going to hand it and put it on that front doorstep. That's where the value is, because the other distance doesn't matter if that last mile doesn't happen the way it needs to happen, right? And that what you're focusing on there is so very important. This idea of value, And I think sometimes that can get commodified in a way where I like to take a step back and just talk about, like, sort of human value, in the sense that these tools are very powerful as long as it's providing value, in the sense, like you said, making tomorrow better, as opposed to, just filling our heads with voices so we can't hear our own. Because one of the things you were saying about, about being, when we're bored and like we're in the shower, it's like at that point, you can hand over your agency to an AI, or you can hand your agency over to your own mind, because your mind steps into that boredom and starts making connections. And it fills that space. That's where the ideas come. And that's where the value is very human, in the sense that that last mile, it has to be us. But if we give over the agency to these tools that can just do it fast and indulge our perhaps laziest impulses, then we're suddenly, it's detracting value, I think, rather than giving it to us. Sorry, that was not a question so much as a ramble,
Cheap.
but
No, it's cheap. Like, the work is cheap. What you do is cheap, and, like, if that's what you wanna do, if that's how you wanna work, fine, but at the end of the day, everyone will see it. I think, and that's actually something that I love. Like, I remember, do you remember in the early 2000s, banner blindness? Do you know that phrase? Banner blindness?
I want to say it has something to do with, like, banner ads.
Banner ads, that's
Yeah,
right. So banner ads. I studied design, mid-center design and engineering in 2006, 2007, and that was kind of a big thing, right? Like, this is, right as the iPhone would launch, 2007, and banners were the way by which brands could actually generate attention. And so, like, there was a lot of, like, cognitive, design around motion, blinking, light, all of that, just to generate attention.
yes. Thank
And
you,
then that
Flash
that's right.
animation. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as much as we over engineered those banner ads, audiences were blind to it. They became literally like the right rail, left rail, top rail, like yeah, it was just like it became, you could squint test it and nobody would see it. Period. Didn't matter. Even to this day, you go to New York Times, banner blindness, doesn't matter. I feel like there will be, and I think there already is today, but over time there will be a banner blindness for AI driven content. I can tell you I can go on LinkedIn right now and go, yep, written by ChatGPT or not. Yes, no, yes, no. And every time I see it, I pass by it because I think it's bullshit. If you don't do the work, if you don't put yourself into it, if you don't put Andy Baker into and ingest the content and then execute something that is your own work, then why would I give you any time?
And I think I do believe all of that. And my question is, I am wondering, as we move forward, the foot race that exists between AI generated, whether you call it slop or content, getting better,
Mhm.
being able to simulate better, more effectively, versus having enough of that content swimming around. And I firmly believe this part of it, that the unique voices, we will treasure them all the more. We will value them all the more.
Yes.
When it's like, okay, I can always count this person, this voice is always, it is different, it's unique, because as I've said on this podcast many times, not those truly unique voices, we already value them, but there are fewer of them than we would like to think, in the sense of something that is truly distinctive. But I do believe that it's just going to become distinct just because you're not using these tools, just because you have said, okay, no, I can't put out the slop. I have to bring myself to this, that people will either choose to hear my voice or not, but it will be my voice. But I'm just very curious to see, as content develops, as the tools get better, can it simulate enough that it can fool us into thinking it is there, this is legit. And I don't know. The future is going to be very interesting. But until then, I, like you, immediately dismiss the stuff that is so very clearly AI. It's like, if you can't respect my time enough to make it your own, then, I'm moving on.
One of my favorite writers, advertising executives, marketers, Mira Crisp, she says that she doesn't use AI as a differentiator. And I hope that continues to be true for her and for all of us. At the same time, I work with companies who are looking to lay off 30% of their staff because AI will be able to take over a lot of the work. And so that's the friction that we live in, is this tension of inevitability and yet hopefully not mediocrity. I feel like, I hope there's a separation of the wheat from the chaff. And if inspiration, if the the technology can create inspiration, I'd be so grateful. If it ends up taking over all of our execution, then I'd be very sad for our kids and for actually the creative output as a whole, because I know what Mira Crisp can make. I know what she's done in her work. I know the power of working with incredible creative people and the inspiration that comes from being in a room at 11 o'clock at night in a conference, in a conference room, and we're just like tired but we make something amazing. And if that becomes driven by agentic output.
Yeah, something ineffable will have been lost. I love what you said there. You can see it as an inevitability, but not mediocrity. It's a great place for us to, it's hopeful in its own way. We worry, but we hope that hope wins out. So anyone who's listening, where can they find you if they find all of your thoughts to be fascinating and they feel like you're somebody who might be able to help them, that you would be able to guide them into using these kinds of things as we would hope that they would? Where can they find you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, Justin Marshall, or justin@dpmt.co via email. Happy to connect with anybody who has any ideas or thoughts. Would love to kind of grow together.
Fantastic. All right. So thank you so much for coming on. I know I got value out of this. One of the joys of doing this podcast is just meeting people and having very human connection, and hearing people wrestle with the things that we're all wrestling with. So I appreciate you coming on, and I just appreciate you. This was fascinating.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks for listening to the Creative AI Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or visit creativeaipod.com.